This is the Transparency Podcast Show.
That's how I kind of connect with her.
Okay.
And then she's very courage with her transition, and she's just started it not too long ago, and she decided to move forward to full-time girl.
Very good.
And I feel this is a very good guest that can also relate to many girls that they're not sure or they kind of afraid or have fears to come out.
Yeah.
So today, Carrie is going to tell us her stories and her experience, and also her experience at work as a trans person coming out.
Very good.
So welcome.
Let's meet
Carrie.
her.
Carrie James. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
How are you?
So introduce
okay.
yourself a little bit and, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, my name is Carrie James, and you kind of set me up. I guess I'm probably on Facebook way too much.
No. You're very, how do I say, very generous with your comments. I can see you comment
nice.
with many girls. There's no like jealousy or diva situation going on, so that's good. I love that. So.
Kind of supportive.
I can be the diva as much as anyone else. No, I've decided to move on with my transition.
Congratulations.
Like so many other girls, I consider myself more of I'm evolving. I'm becoming who I really am.
Yes.
So you can like kind of tell us where you like in the beginning how you start, like how. Like, when do you feel when you're a little different and all that?
It's interesting because people ask, like, when did you think, right?
Right.
And I think my thought process has always been the same. It wasn't that I was feminine or anything like that. I just kind of felt that the way I was walking through life, that connection wasn't happening, right? And I think that it was more of a, you look at clothes. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. You look at makeup, and you look at your hair, and that just felt more natural to me. And so I can honestly say this is something I always kind of felt.
So do you start dressing in the closet, or you start just right away, like dressing and go out right away?
As a young child, I did, clothes and your sister stuff, and so you would try that, and and that's how it kind of grew.
So do you steal your sister's underwear to wear?
Not my own. I went out and just got stuff on my own and just kind of, and it just felt natural, and I just knew this was going to happen. And I'd had relationships. I mean, I think I was telling you one time, Shelby, I had relationships with other women, and if I can be so bold to say it, it just felt that we were just two women going out. And, and I kind of felt that, maybe 3 years ago that I go, okay, this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
2.5 years ago, I was probably 90-10.
Did something specifically happen to push you in that direction?
I just like the clothes, and I like the makeup, and I like doing it. And I think the way the city had evolved a little bit, where it's a little more accepting. I mean, we do have, Detroit's, where I live, it's different than, you in LA, it's still a little bit different. We do have our pockets where it's very much accepted, there's places I can go to and not have it, but and I go everywhere. I decided, I said, well, I'm not going to kind of pigeonhole myself down into just those areas, because this is what I'm going to be.
Yeah, you want to live your life.
Right. Yeah, and I felt that, so that's all kind of all our started. So when you act about, I kind of joke. Someday somebody's going to ask me, what happened during the pandemic with you? I mean,
COVID does really strange things
because it just kind of, it was much more of a, it was just the the transition. It was happening.
Yeah. So you provide us some pictures to show the audience. So can you kind of let us know like what like this one, this picture?
This is fun.
Yeah. Is this like in the very, very beginning?
Oh, is that the two pictures, two faces?
Yes.
Yes.
So, all right, I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay, sure.
I was driving, and it was that moment I drove. I saw myself in the mirror in my car, and I go, "Oh my gosh!" But the problem was, I actually drove through a stop sign, and I got pulled over by the police.
Oh my gosh!
And so I took the two pictures. And my license hadn't been changed, and it looked. So that's what that is.
Wait. What did the cop say to you? I want to know that. That's more important.
Well, God, there's a whole story and go on, but that he was very kind about it.
Okay.
I drove through it. He goes, "You understand what you did?" And I go, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what I did." And I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. And I took the ticket and took off. And I just thought it was just a funny moment. And so because that's what it is. I looked through the mirror of my my rearview mirror. And so I pulled my camera out to take the one picture where my jaw was dropping. And and then I went through, it was stupid. I should not have been driving and taking selfies of myself.
So is this your first selfie as Carrie?
Wasn't my first one, but it's the first one driving. Taking a picture while I was driving.
Excellent.
How about this? How about this one?
Yeah.
How about this picture? Is this like how long ago? Right after that first picture?
I can't see it. I'm sorry.
Oh, she can't see the other pictures.
I can't. I don't know which one that is. Oh,
okay.
I'm thinking, which one is that? Like in an apartment or something like that? I can't see it.
Looks like
I'm almost in the
How about this one? What are you doing in the laundry shop for?
There's one store here in Detroit called Janet's Closet.
Okay.
And it's kind of a cross-dresser trans place.
Okay.
And that was probably the first time I had somebody kind of do me, so to speak.
Yeah.
And and they become just great friends. I see them all the time.
I'm very curious. Besides those stockings, what else do they sell there?
Oh, well, they sell clothes. They sell shoes.
Shoes.
It's everything you want. It just happens to be the wall that I think we always get our pictures taken by because it's by the cash register. And so it sells a lot of it's if you're looking online, Janet probably thrilled if I mentioned it to you. We'll give her a plug. But Janet's Closets, and it's where I go, and like I said, I become friends. I got a couple of friends there that I just adore.
So are they cis girls?
Yes, they really are. And in a way, it's been kind of neat because I have been lucky in that I do have a lot of cisgendered support.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm here in Chicago with a friend.
So
right?
So what about your own family and friends?
When did you first come out?
That's coming along.
Are they supporting you?
My folks kind of had a tough time, are having a tough time. I mean, and I get it. It's ironic. My sister's children are teenagers, and they're just fine.
Right.
But it's coming along. It's not going to, I understand. It's a big change for them, and it's just that, it's part of the process.
Right.
It's not as if they've knocked me out of their lives. It's not as if anybody has said, get out of here. Sister's husband's not that thrilled, but I think it's because he just misses me not watching football with him, And
one thing
I
we
don't like it, I still do, but I just think that, so little things like that. But,
one thing that we don't talk about too much as a community is that when we transition, those around us also transition. It took me 54 years to come to terms, and so it'll take other people a while as well.
And I try to remember that, that it wasn't, this was coming, right? And they could tell. And, I could, my voice was kind of changing because I was working with that, I think one time, there was mascara still left in my eyes one time.
Right. Telltale signs.
You know, and so I just, you know, from that end, you know, I got to remember, you know, that this is a big change for them. And you know, it's just what we have to go through. And it's not as if, you know, I've lost some friends, you know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They just have to recognize that, you know, this is me.
Right. How was it coming out at work?
This is an ongoing thing, and Shelby knows a little bit about it. So
yeah. How did you come out at work during COVID? That's the headline for you.
Well, yeah, what happened was the day that I was, Michelle, and you know, Shelby's here to this. The day that I was supposed to come out, I was going to meet my management. And I figured the time was right because I was up for a job that would have been less client facing, more of a, you know, chief operations officer or whatever. But the day that I went was the day that basically the country shut down, and our global HR director had to fly back to London. Wow. And she goes, listen, I can't meet with you. I'm out of here, okay, because I won't be able to get back. So I continued, and it's been a bit of a balancing act. And Shelby, you don't know, you know, it has been kind of coming out, you know, because we are getting ready to go back to the office. And,
yeah. So before you go back to the office, and you just do Zoom meeting, right? Do you tell us about that funny story that you told me?
So I would just, you know, I would maybe wipe my lipstick off. I'd make myself, you know.
You don't show videos, right?
Yes, and I go really close, you know. And I wear darker glasses, and it'd be darker in the room. And I didn't really change my voice thinking back on it. But we didn't, the irony was we didn't have as many Zoom calls. I think because I had a client that couldn't do it as well. But there had been moments, you know, where I laugh about this. One time I was presenting, and it was more of a conference call. And my slides were up on the Zoom, and I tend to walk around a bit when I present. And it kept asking about what's this clicking sound going on, right? And I'm like, I don't know. And then after meeting, I'm walking around. I go, oh, wait a minute, that's my heels. You know,
I love it.
So they all thought there was something wrong, so they're all checking her. You know, oh, what's going on? Because I was talking and presenting, and you know, I use my hands, I walk around. But it has been a bit of a, you know, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be the big surprise. You know, there's some people that haven't. I have come out to some coworkers. One didn't really take it very well, but most of them have. You know, we are getting ready for, unfortunately, a big, massive downsizing, and how we're gonna work my way through it. You know, I didn't want to.
Is the company supportive overall? Do they have insurance plans?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not going to tell you much where I'm at or what group.
Sure.
They talk a lot about it. You know, our clients talk about diversity,
right.
DEI.
Yeah.
But to put it in action is a whole different deal.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll do their. I mean, I'm going to be blunt. You know, they'll do their little dinners, and you know, they'll bring out the former president of the company who's gay, and they'll bring him out. But you know, they pay him; he's retired, and they'll pay him to come. You know, and so it's a little bit of you know, they'll troop you out. You know, and I've gone to those before. I had kind of transitioned, and I go, okay, I know this. I'm you know, I'm not. You know, not naive.
Right.
And so, you know, you just talk your way through it. I think that the decision needs to be made. I mean, you know, myself and others, you know, salaries of, you know, somebody that you used to play golf with, walk around the clubhouse, right? You know, showers, you know, everything else. And all of a sudden, like, oh, wait a minute, you know, what happened? And so, Yeah.
So what do you anticipate when you go back to the office? It sounds like that will be soon.
I did have my first meeting. My finally was able to. I had some Zoom calls with my management and the board, and last was Tuesday. I got a call and they wanted to meet with me in the morning. And I kind of go, okay, this can go two ways. But it went well. It was a nice discussion. We'll see. I think, like I said, so much has changed from a corporate standpoint. The stuff that's going on, in the Ukraine. We basically had to walk away from our investments in Russia.
Wow.
And had to shut those things down, and that's a significant amount, right? And just like everybody else.
Crazy.
So, well, I guess you could say this, Michelle. I'm sorry. It's in process.
Got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now on your Facebook, I'm gonna switch gear to your more back to your personal life. So on your Facebook, I see you go out a lot, like with different group of girls and clubs. So how's Michigan? Like when you go out, do you feel safe? And like how about like bathroom or pronouns? What do they?
Yeah.
Are they understanding you or?
There are some places that are kind of hard. Nobody's ever yelled at me when I've had to use, the right restroom.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said get out of here. But it's not as if I'm going to certain places. I mean, I'm going to places that I know are going to be safe.
Yeah.
This will be accepting. But I do try, as I was saying earlier, I want to live a normal life. And this is my normal life.
Right.
And so I didn't want to be pigeonholed of only going to trans clubs or gay clubs or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I love them. I want to meet your friends and everything else. But at the same time, yes. I do have a regular life, and I try to live that.
Right.
And there's a couple places you kind of go, okay, do I want to walk in there? Do I?
Sure.
Sure. And you just kind of do it. And you're right. And it's like that. You try to go, and I think like I said, I'm lucky because I have, friends that are transitioning as well.
Okay.
But I also have cisgendered friends. And, I guess there's comfort in the pack.
Yeah. How has therapy
Yes.
been a part of your process? Have you been in counseling, or how has that worked for you?
Yeah, it's been great. I think that I tried without doing it, and I realized I couldn't. I knew that I had to get a little help.
Yeah, sure.
And there's that stigma, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you kind of get into this, it's a little easier. I mean, I can't say I haven't had my moments where I've had to have that, oh my gosh, I gotta see her right away, and so you go in.
Yeah.
But it's been good.
Good.
And I think it's helped me. I mean, becoming who I am, I would hope that I've become a better person, because I think there's so many other things in my life that would just make more sense.
Right.
That
Exactly.
I just sit here and I'd like to think that I'm a better person. I do know I smile way too much. I thought it was somebody that people were saying this, but I catch myself, and I'll be walking by and I'll look in a mirror. Not that I'm vain, because believe me, I know my limitations of how I look. Mm-hmm. I know that, and but I can see myself, and I can. Yes. I'm happy when I've noticed that literally. I've walked down the streets, and I'm always wondering, God, people must look at her and go, what the hell is going on? Who's she smiling to? You're by herself. Right. And
how about those pictures that you post? Did you?
And it's because of people like you. Excuse me?
I say the pictures, like the recent pictures that you also sent us. I was always wondering, like who teach you to post? Like, do you see? Look at that smile.
Great pictures.
Huh?
Oh my God. I have a friend, and she just thinks it's.
So
you see me in some locations, you're like wondering why are in the middle of this ghetto, or why are they at this, inner city or whatever, and she'll just drive and she'll go, Carrie, let's get out. We got to take some pictures of you.
So
And
she helped you how to pose and everything?
I think I mean, she's helped me because she was kind of a model, but she goes, I don't really have anything to teach. I mean, I just kind of do it. I didn't think of it. I just try not to fall down, if I do my cross legs a certain way. So the fact that you would even say it, thank you very much, because I didn't stand.
Awesome.
How about your fashion? Did your cis girlfriends give you any advice stuff?
I've always been into fashion. I've always been into clothes, and I think that was probably part of it. Is I always loved women's clothes.
Yeah.
And even as my former self, I probably, I like clothes. Matter of fact, one of the things I did was just get rid of all of them.
Yeah.
But I've got to admit, there's two suits I didn't want to get rid of. They paid a lot of money for me. I'm tailored. They're high end. I go, I'm never going to wear these. Okay. I mean, I'm never going to do anything. They look good on a hanger, and, but I've always been into clothes and dresses and skirts. And I
want to ask you, so do you shop in person, try it on fitting room, or you shop online?
I think we may have frozen up a little bit.
Do we lost you?
I try to, but I'm kind of large, I try to, but it's hard because I would go to a store and I have just my size, and my size, my shoes are, not every store carries those, and especially heels and all that. So
challenging.
So that's a bit of a challenge.
So when you shop in person in Michigan, did anyone give you any problems? Or you have any issues?
Yeah, I've had some, I've mostly bought clothes in person.
Mm-hmm.
There has been, no one has ever said anything, but you can see. And I'm not trying to make it up, but you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like, here I am, and I have to, my clothes, I have to get kind of taken in or out or whatever. I probably wear my skirts way too short. But I have a seamstress that helps me out, and puts me together.
Awesome.
So I'll buy something and she'll make it work for me.
Awesome.
Actually, I just bought a dress and I was going to wear that today, but it was just like way too much.
Save it for next time.
Falling off the top.
You can tell just the joy that you have when that inner matches the outer and authenticity is there. It just, you can see it, especially in that first picture in the car, your eyes tell the story. And so it's amazing. It's amazing to see. It's amazing to experience. And it's amazing to see in others as well.
I've been lucky. You cross paths with like Shelby, and she's always, and we all have our battles, we all have our wars, we all have our tough times.
Definitely.
But I got deep, but I've been lucky. I've had great support, and the support I have has been great and wonderful, and I think that's kind of added on to the happiness. And I'm
very important.
I'm seeing things through a different lens right now. Not because I got to wear glasses and I'm blinded out, but no, I can see. Things just are much more crisper in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd like to think I'm a better person.
Exactly.
And I think that's the one thing that when you talked earlier about, about therapy, it was kind of recognizing that I had victories I didn't even know about, right? Being like, okay, you've got this. And so I just tried to, I just gonna live my life, and whether it's, on my own or however,
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
So is there anyone that give you a big impact or influence when you first started?
Yeah.
Any other girl? Not me, but anybody else?
Well, I was going to say it was you.
No.
And but no, there has been, but it was more, seeing how they kind of lived, how they were negotiating it through. I mean, I think that I know there's some people that are having a really tough time.
Yes.
And I think I tell this when I've told people, and is go on your own pace, right? And maybe some people it's a little longer, right?
Right.
Somebody says no, you got to go do your shots, you got to go take HRT, you got to do this,
Right.
you're not out entirely. I've had people say, because you're kind of negotiating and you're not totally out at work, it's not that I'm hiding anything, it just hasn't happened.
Right.
But it was more of a, well, then you're not out. Well, okay, I'm out to me, And so I think that when you find your settled spot, you take your victories and you move on and you try to grow on. But I think there's things I've always told people. It's like you go on your own pace. It's just like,
Exactly.
what? It's no different than if I wasn't doing this, right?
Exactly.
There's we all have our lives,
right.
And you should, that's just how I live.
Right.
So,
there's no one right way to be cis, and there's no one right way to be trans. And so what's unique is our journeys are so similar and so different at the same time. I always find that fascinating. I was talking on social media this week about that, about how there are so similarities, but then they're entirely different contexts.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I agree. I mean, like I said, and the first time was a girl, a friend of mine, and she cisgendered, and she was realizing she was a bit of a lipstick lesbian, and we were having drinks, and it happened to be in a bar that all of a sudden was a happy hour for several trans girls, and we were getting ready to go. She had to go, and I said, I'm going to pay the bill, and she goes, take a look, because that's your life, because she knew what was going on. And 2 weeks later, I was taking that picture, they told earlier, like, all right,
Amazing.
And so, so that's kind of how
excellent.
Okay. So, do you want to give some other girls that who's still in the closet or maybe not sure or afraid to go forward or come out? Do you have any advice or even people who's maybe working and they're not sure if they should come out? Do you have, based on your experience, do you have any advice for
I think,
others?
just what I said before, everybody has their own pace.
Yes.
And I think that if you're not ready, you decide, when will you be ready? And if you don't think you're ever going, this is not for the faint-hearted. I mean, you guys are going, you know what it's like. This is not an easy trial, and
no one chooses this.
And I choose to be very positive, but I understand, the world's not bright and, sunshiny every day. And I know there's women out there. I know there's some girls out there that, they've lost jobs, they've lost families, they've been on the street, and God bless them for, still continuing on. But at the end of the day, we all deserve to be living with dignity. We all deserve to be living as our true selves. And I think that's the one thing I would say is like, find your level of dignity, find your area. Don't let anybody push you, because if you're doing this because so-and-so, and I've had this conversation, they're saying, well, Carrie, you got to do this, you got to do that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not, or I'm going to say, okay, let's do it, and it's where that fits into your life.
Right. Exactly.
And I've been lucky, right? I've got these neighbors on both sides of me, and they noticed. I mean, when we were talking earlier, when I first started living full time, it was during early part of the pandemic, and they knew what was happening, and out here in Michigan, people, at first when they would get together, they'd sit on their driveway, you'd sit on their sidewalk, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I came walking out in heels and a pair of, leather leggings, and my
I love
glasses,
it.
and it was great, and so, like I said, and I do live in an area that has a lot of diversity in it, mostly gay, but it's a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michelle, do you have any last question for Carrie today?
Well, it's really good to know you, and it's really fun to see you walk in your authenticity. And it sounds like community has been really important to you, both in your cis and trans friends. And so I think that's a kind of a lesson for all of us, that we've been given a lot, and now we have a lot to give. And so
and that's
it's exciting.
I don't try to, I figure, there are people I can talk to. And I've asked, Shelby, things, and just seeing how people live their lives,
right,
and how they progress, right? Shelby had changed careers, and I've had to, I'm thinking I might have to do that,
Come join me to become a realtor.
Possibly, Shelby will probably be a real estate agent when I move to California,
And she was a great example of, someone that was involved in church and had family. And so I was kind of following in her wake as she transitioned, and I was able to learn and glean a lot from her. So I very appreciate her. So I'm excited to have people meet Nia and her wife, Katie. That has been an amazing example of what a marriage can do and stay together in spite of transition, or even glow or thrive in transition. And so I'm very excited to be able to share their stories with everybody today. So welcome. Nia and Katie.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited to be here.
They are coming in from Iowa today, where they have weather probably better than we do today. We're a little bit hotter here.
Yeah.
And so we're very excited to have you guys. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about, I know you guys met a long time ago. You guys were kind of high school sweethearts, and even before that. So tell us a little about your relationship before you were married.
Do you want to start?
Do I want to start? Well, we're actually like elementary school.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know, sweetheart. That's what our parents would say, that we were elementary school sweethearts.
We met in elementary.
That's when we met. And then we became best friends in junior high school. And we had like a thought experiment of if maybe we had a band, what instruments would we play? But
nice.
I did not play any instruments. Nia played the trumpet, and this was not a good band. So our imaginary band just became a really good friendship.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I think it was just like a ploy, to talk to each other. And so our whole relationship kind of developed, on like basketball bleachers and landline telephones,
Landlines, yes.
And so then we started dating our junior year of high school, our junior prom. So we're that adorable.
Oh, of course you are. Look at you now.
So we started dating in high school, and then went to college, to the same college in Iowa, and then got married our senior year of college. Okay. So we've been married for 18 years.
Nice.
18 years and 5 kids later.
5 kids. Tell us about your children.
Yeah, so we are currently in what we call super months, which is where we can remember most of their ages, because it goes 12, 11, 10, 9, and 4. Next month, our oldest will turn 13 and ruin that super month. But they're an amazing crew of kids. They just are really fun.
Yeah, they're goofy and silly, and also, I think, just really caring. We're like gushy parents. We're very proud of our children. They're kind of amazing in every way. Yep. All of them, all 5 of them.
Awesome. I love that. That's what parents should be. And so you guys are so fun to watch on social media. I've never met Katie or your children in person, but it's fun to kind of know you vicariously through that and watch everybody grow up and getting big already. So very good. So tell us, Nia, a little bit about when you knew you were different, when you knew that the gender that you were assigned to at birth didn't quite fit. So how did that play out for you?
Yeah, I think, looking back, I didn't really feel a whole lot of anything gender-wise until puberty. I grew up kind of not not thinking about gender, as a lot of kids do, just kind of before you hit a certain age, the world was kind of genderless. And it was for me until I hit puberty. And there were activities divided by gender and things, but that really didn't bother me until I hit puberty, and my body started to change and hit that, oh, this is not right. This is not what I want. And so I didn't have the language transgender. Grew up in a really evangelical Christian conservative home, and that kind of community, that was seen as a bad thing, number one, but also that language just wasn't even in that sphere. So it wasn't until only 5 years ago that probably 6, that I really started to explore more what was going on inside of me, and started going to therapy. I mean, really is what it took. So through therapy, then realized, well, I am transgender, and that's what this is, and that's what this has been the whole time, even though it's kind of, looked different and had some different iterations. But so that's in a nutshell, kind of started in puberty, and then the last 30 years, it took me to kind of figure out what was going on.
Mm-hmm. And so therapy played a big role in that and helping you discover and kind of flush all that out.
Definitely. I got to a point where I was doing some discovery on my own and just kind of hitting a roadblock. And, Katie graciously kept saying over and over, well, maybe you should see a therapist. Maybe you should see a therapist. And so finally, we have a lot of good LGBTQ therapists in town. And so I found one, and I've seen a couple in town now, and they've both been great people and have really helped me understand who I am, and then also build boundaries as I come out and, meet the world.
Right. Very good. Good. That's something we try to talk about a lot, is therapy and how that's played for both of us.
I'm curious, when did you mention to Katie about yourself? Did you start from when you're, like you say, you discover when you have puberty?
No.
No,
Definitely not. So I think it was probably, when I actually literally came out and said I'm transgender, it wasn't until 2018. Okay. So not that long ago. We had some discussions a couple of years prior to that, as I had started to explore some more of myself. And the day that I went to therapy, I went to therapy and realized that I was trans, and I was driving home thinking, okay, how am I gonna talk to Katie about this? Because this is a hard conversation. So I, in my mind was like, what if I just kind of test the waters and, hedge a little bit to see if she's okay with it before I kind of, blurt out that I'm transgender. But in that kind of thought experiment, I realized it wasn't fair to either one of us if I didn't say who I was and we ended up staying, or if, because of me or because of her. So I just came home and I said, I'm transgender. And when we had the opportunity to sit down and talk, and she turned to me and said, I know.
Oh, wow. How do you know? I am curious.
How do you know? That's a good question.
Well, Nia always talks about this moment as the moment that she came out to me, but that to me is not the moment that she came out.
Interesting.
Like she said, we had a few years of conversation, few years of conversation around gender, centered a lot on clothing and just like feeling. Mm-hmm. So to me, the first time that she said anything like that to me, well, you did say something really early in our marriage, but it was like, that was in the past. Yeah. And so when it cropped up again later in our married life, I knew then. And weirdly, I had been really drawn to trans stories. It was like a big part of my own journey because we have boys. And I think that there was a lot of talk around like, will you let your boys wear nail polish? Will you let them grow their hair long? Can they wear dresses? And so as a mom, I was already thinking about that. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting interested in trans stories. So when she doesn't think she came out to me, but when she kind of opened the box, I was like, this is a road we're starting down. Whether it was a road towards, non-binary or it was a road towards trans, I knew then. Yeah. So when she came home and said, I know, and she said, I'm trans, and I said, I know, I really did. I was like, okay, I'm glad that you caught up.
Wow. I love that. So how was that for you, that process? Because it would seem like through your youth and your guys' time together, even in college before you got married, there was nothing there, right? And so that had to be a journey for you to kind of wrap your mind around this.
Well, I think for me, Nia had always loved me so well. I live with a lot of depression and anxiety, and Nia has seen me in some of my deepest, darkest holes and just met me there. So as much as I said, I see you when she came out to me, she had said the same thing to me, our whole marriage. But I really had felt almost our entire marriage that there was one roadblock that I just could never love her quite the same as she could love me. I always knew that there was some sort of imbalance. Like there was just something I wasn't seeing, because I always thought, oh my God, you're so much better than me because you can love me like this. And I don't think I'm giving you that same kind of love. And so when she came out, of course it was like, what is gonna happen? You know? And there was a lot of like internally, externally, I'm like, okay.
Right.
Internally, I'm like, oh my God.
Yes, certainly.
But you deal with that feeling, because coupled with that like chaotic, what am I going to do feeling, was also this feeling of that's the thing. That's the thing that has been in the way. That's the reason why I haven't been able to reach her as much as I want to. That's it. That's the blockage. And so it was like a key that unlocked a deeper relationship for me with her. And while I do think you're really amazing and great, I don't think you're better than me anymore.
Oh, bummer.
I love it. We go for equality in this relationship.
Equality.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful, because I know there's many of us that have stories like mine where we had a great marriage and but our spouse was just not able to be on this journey with us. And which is confusing, because if you're a good friend and someone that unconditionally loves someone and someone that is committed, and then, to death do us part, and then this comes up, certainly this rocks everybody's world that we're associated with. But I love the fact that you're able to see that as kind of what was missing. And there was something there that I couldn't put my finger on, but now this is it. And then you allow that in your openness and in your love for Nia, you allow that to blossom into the relationship you have now. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think there was resistance was futile.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't really have a choice. But I do want to say too, I think that what helped me also is that I did not have a good idea of my own sexuality. Nia is the only person I've ever kissed. She's the only person I've ever been with. And so I got to really discover my own sexuality, which at the front was terrifying. And now is so liberating.
Wow.
I like to say that Nia gifted me my queerness because I didn't know that I was queer. I hadn't had the experience.
Right.
But this is one stroke of luck, I would say, inside of a relationship, is that I am queer. And so I think that really helped the process a lot, is I didn't look into my own sexuality and say, oh, I am strictly straight. I looked into my own sexuality and said, oh, there's a lot more here.
Right, exactly, which is amazing. And that open-mindedness is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So I want to ask, because after Nia transition, when you guys go out, is there any fun stories or any difference from prior? Like, let's say you go on a date or take kids out. Is there some?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So when we first started going out, we live in a community it's a city. It's, 500,000 people, but it's small feel to it. And so when I first started to transition, before she knew, but not everybody knew. I mean, I think it was kind of scary to go out together. I won't speak for you, but I know for me, even running into somebody not being out was terrifying.
You mean like just when you were fully dressed as yourself?
Yeah, just out. I'm out, but not out to other people. So that there was like that stage in between. And I think for me now, going out on dates, we went out last night and it's just so freeing. I don't know. I only know what I knew before, which was not freedom. But going out now is just so much more fun.
Wow. Nice.
I feel like I'm much more loose when we go out on dates. And
I mean, we've always had good dates, so that's
true.
But there was a time in transition where Nia's transition was a public transition. She didn't go through like a lot of, I mean, there was privacy and more androgyny in the private moments, but then Nia did go through a transition period where, you know, it was clear she was transitioning, you know. Right. So there was, for me, a lot of fear in those, like year maybe, that it was clear you were transitioning, because anywhere you go, you're told to be afraid, really. And for good reason. You know, trans people are targeted and they're harmed. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do? Like, am I just going to bystand this? What am I going to do? And then it turns out in our community, everywhere we go, I mean, we get the occasional looks, which is kind of like, yeah, take us in. But overwhelmingly, we have such positive response from people. Like last night, we were out at a bar and the kid was so great. The waiter brought us an extra drink. We met, like, exchanged names and talked a little bit, which before that would not have been something that we would have done on a date, engaged with people outside of the two of us.
Yeah. And I will say too, Shelby, to answer your question, you know, weirdly, we did have a lot of fun, and not weirdly, there's not a lot of, weirdly, there was not a lot of change, you know, to your question, because we still have a lot of fun. And, you know, the kids, I feel like my relationship with the kids didn't really change. So we get to go out and have fun and be a family. And it kind of is as it was before. There was that period where it wasn't, and it was hard, but and now it kind of is as it was before, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
Congrats.
Yes, and I love that, even because we, especially here in California, we think we are blessed for sure by the acceptance that we have in general day-to-day life. But other places don't have that. But go Iowa, it sounds like, I've heard you mention before that there is a great community in Des Moines, and you live just outside of that. And so that's really great to hear.
Yeah, it's, you know, we also, there's a thing called Iowa Nice, so no one's going to be like real mean to you, but maybe talk behind your back. But yeah, it's, you know, especially in the city, it's really nice to be in a community that is accepting.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Tell us a little bit about, Nia, I know that you have a job that you are very open with, and kind of the nature of your position, you had to be in certain ways. So tell us a little about what you do and how transition was for that, in that role.
Yeah. So I'm a director of human resources for an education agency here in Iowa. And it's a 750 person organization. So I mean, I really had high visibility in my role before I came out.
Right.
So the coming out process meant that I had to communicate with almost everybody. I mean, I really did have to communicate with everybody in the organization, because you don't want an employee coming to you for something and being like, what? I don't understand. So yeah, my organization was amazing. And I know a lot of people don't have this experience, but I think because I was in HR, I was able to say, like, this would be my role to walk, you know, if somebody came to me to help walk the organization through that. So I was able to say to our executive team, like, this is what I need. And they said, that's great. You lead the way, which I think is key in organizational acceptance, you know, work or church. Letting the person who's transitioning lead the way is key. And my organization did that. And so I was able to write letters and, you know, write a memo and, you know, have the, our agency head kind of sign off on it, like, you know, with his name, and say, like, this is what's happening. I support this person, and everybody else better support this person too. And so it really was just a really positive experience.
That's great. I think that's a great point to underscore, is that the person that is coming out owns their story. And even if it's an organization or a religious group or a nonprofit, anything, that if they're allowed to communicate to their story on their own, of course, there's going to be structural policy and things to fit in that. But if they can own their story, it makes it so much more valuable for them and much a rewarding and full experience. And so that's a good point to be sure that people hear.
Yeah. So talk about story. I also heard from Michelle that you wrote a book about yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so the book is called The Story of Nib, and really this was born out of my own processing. And so I do a form of therapy called EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization and
rapid desensitization.
I don't know.
EMDR.
We're not the therapist.
Desensitization and reprocessing.
Oh,
Yeah, so desensitization and reprocessing. So essentially what it is you're looking at your own memories and you are reprocessing some of those in a more positive way to kind of close the loop on some potentially trauma that you have in the past. And through that process, I was doing some of that, and I was processing some of my memories from, before puberty and up to puberty, and then kind of what would life have been like if I would have, been born who I am, and kind of just doing some processing. And I got to, where I met Katie and some of those memories, because we met when we were 12 really and became friends early. And I kind of kept going through that junior high processing. And then all of a sudden there was nothing, like no memories for me to look at. And so I started to look at why was that happening? And just in my mind, I'm looking around and I found this character in this wooden box that is a part of my story, obviously. And that's where the story of Nib was born. And so I had a daily processing session of who is this character? What do they want? Why are they here? And that really is what the story of Nib is about. It's about finding a piece of me and integrating that into the rest of my personhood.
Yes, I love that. And it is a deep, beautiful, meaningful, insightful journey. And so where could someone find that book?
Yeah, you can Google it and get it from any bookseller, probably in local booksellers, obviously, if they have it. If they don't, try to request it through them because it loves supporting local booksellers. So just Google Story of Nib. And a shout out to the illustrator.
Beautiful.
I mean, this was not really meant for public consumption, but I had this illustrator, this trans woman in South America, do an illustration for one of these scenes for me, and I loved it so much. And I just kept having her do more and more until I was like, you know what, we just do all of them, and we're just gonna put this together. So Great. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Great. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it as part of someone's own process of coming out, but also sharing with a child or someone else that you're relating to that is going through some type of self-search, internal dialogue of what authenticity means for me. And so it's a powerful tool. So thank you for writing it. Thank you for telling us about it. Yeah. Now tell us a little bit about, you have so many things that you guys are involved in, so I wish we had all day to talk, but Love in the Face is an organization that you guys created kind of out of what was already happening, and you kind of formalized it. And so tell us a little bit about Love in the Face.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you how it started initially, as a public person in human resources in my company. Once I came out, I had employees who said, oh, my neighbor's kid is trans. Do you have resources? And my daughter has a trans kid. My granddaughter, I think it first started as a grandkid was trans. And so I started talking to these families and kind of just one-on-one, chatting. And then we thought, why don't we just formalize this where we can let people know that we're here for support. So it morphed into a lot of different things, which you can talk more about what it is now, but started with just mentoring, support, one-on-one, doing name change ceremonies and marking the time for people as they go through a transition, and a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, yes. I think what we really seek to do is support trans individuals and their loved ones and their communities. So we're very open people. So we're like, do you need a thing? we'll do that thing. We can help you do that thing. So, we kind of just go, we can mentor. We're very good speakers. So we're like, we could speak to that. We've done some workshops for Transmission Ministry Collective.
Yes.
And then we also offer support for spouses or parents, which is hard. I mean, that's difficult, and it's a difficult step for a lot of spouses and parents to take. And it's taken a long time to gain enough trust and traction in the community for spouses to want to reach out, but we're getting there too. So, but what we want is a place where people know that they're loved no matter what. You can feel what you feel. You can be who you are. You don't have to be like over the moon that your spouse or your child or your loved one is trans. You can be figuring it out. Sure. We can help with that. We know what that feels like. And you can be going through it from, the trans individual side and needing support. And what we found when we were in the middle of this is, where do we go? Right. Where do I go in particular? I didn't know where I was supposed to go. Right. Because it feels like a secret world when you're in it. And really it is. Yeah.
Especially as a spouse, I'd imagine.
Yes. And we're trying, part of what Love in the Face wants to do is make it not so secret. Yes. Because having a trans spouse, being a queer family, is something we should absolutely celebrate. But we need a bridge from shame to celebration.
Yeah, so I love that.
And so that's what we want to do. We want to provide that bridge.
I love that. Now, how can people find you and see what all the services you have and what could be beneficial for them?
Yeah, they can go to loveintheface.com. We're also on Instagram at loveintheface. But yeah, loveintheface.com, you can look at, so mentoring support services really is kind of conversational. We try to do that for free as much as we can because that's what we know we needed when we were there. So we don't charge for that. But we do speaking at corporations and at churches. Katie has a background in the church. She can talk more about that. But so we have kind of the HR side, the religious organization side. So happy to do those kind of things. And like Katie said, we've done some workshops with Transmission Ministry Collective talking about grief inside transition and just even partnership inside transition. So we can kind of come in and help in whatever way that an organization or a family or an individual would like us to.
Amazing. Great resources.
Yeah. Katie, I want to ask you, because like what Michelle mentioned, there's a lot of spouse. I have like few close friends. They at first their spouse kind of supported, and somehow I don't know. I didn't ask, but somehow down the line they kind of just doesn't accept this and end up divorcing. So I want to ask you if you can give advice to a trans spouse. What can you give like advice to them if they if their spouse decide to transition?
Yeah. Well, the thing that helped me the most that I ran across and just discovered while I don't even know what I was doing early in Nia's transition was something called the ring theory. And it's how it was developed for people going through grief. And what it is it kind of shows you how to develop boundaries around what's happening to you. So you put the person who's experiencing what they're going through in the middle. And then from there, you have concentric circles that kind of surround that person. That's what ring theory does. And then what ring theory says is that because it's grief, all the grief can go out. Mm-hmm. So you can be like as grief as you want. The person who's in the middle gets to grieve to the person to the outside. That person gets to grieve to the other person on the outside of that. But then stress cannot come in. So what happens is you end up creating these barriers around a person that stress should get absorbed before it hits that person in the middle. Mm. So when Nia was going through her transition, I thought, okay, Nia is in the middle of this. This is happening to her, and I'm her surrounding circle. Mm-hmm. So my job is to make sure that Nia stays safe and is able to transition in a safe environment. And then my next job is to boundary myself so I'm not taking on everybody else's stress.
Right.
The most difficult part was figuring out who was in my outer circles, who was safe, who could I talk to, who was going to give me good advice and not shake their finger at me. And here's the thing, the pressure when your spouse is transitioning is immense. It's huge. And I'm sure, as a transitioning person, that pressure. And for a spouse, especially a spouse who's wanting to kind of hold that pressure back and not let their spouse feel the whole weight of it, you can end up getting crushed by that. And I think you just get tired. And when you're tired, you do give up. And sometimes that's all you can do. So I think my best advice and what I experienced was that in order to protect the relationship between me and Nia, I had to surround myself with people who could shoulder my grief and give me encouragement and love.
Yes.
That's what I needed.
Can you talk about the constant too? Because I think the Rob Bell thing, that to me, you came across this thing and set you up for being able to do all that other stuff.
So I was a pastor, was a lay minister. And so I would listen to podcasts all the time. And I was listening to a Rob Bell podcast, who is like, I love Rob Bell. If you're not familiar with him, he is a great gateway. If you have been a Christian and have deconstructed and need, a little tie back in, he's fantastic. But he was just spitballing some ideas for a book. And he was throwing out this idea that our deepest desires lead us to who we truly are. And so we can be afraid of our desires, or we can listen to them and let them take us to the root of who we are. And so I'm driving in my car. I probably had a sleeping kid in the back. And I was thinking, what do I really want from my life? And I was like, I know it was not even a question. I want Nia. I want this family, and I want this life that we're building. And so hands down, I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this.
Wow.
And that became my constant. It was so clear to me. Nope, this love is worth fighting for. This life is worth fighting for. And by God, I'm going to die trying to hold on to this.
Amazing.
So finding that constant and knowing why I was doing this, why I was standing up to this, made all the difference.
Yeah, I just from my observation, that was super key, because Katie got more dumped on than I did, because she was protecting me in those moments from outside sources. And so she absorbed a lot of garbage. And I think that it seems like, looking back, that was a big key.
And that came largely from the church. Am I right?
Yeah, it did. Yep. A lot of places, but yes.
Yeah. I would say our community, we had a really beautiful community of people. Our systematic religion did not like what was happening. Yeah. And so, I kind of like to say that our love outgrew the system that we were in, which is tragic, because we grew up Christian. We follow the way of Jesus. That was what Jesus preached. And to me, it was like asinine that this was shutting us down, when that's all that Jesus said is like love.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you guys are such powerful examples. And let me just put this out. I know that your story is not everybody's story. And it's okay if you have a spouse, much maybe like more my story, that cannot participate in this journey with you. And that's okay. And that's valid. That's where you are. But the reason I love Nia and Katie's story is because it is a story of using the difficulty and the turmoil and even trauma that a transition like this could cause, but showing how redemptive that can be, and how beautiful it can be, and how healing that can be, not only for you two as a couple, but for us as a community, and for people that can use you and your experiences. And so thank you it would be so easy, especially with some of the things that you've faced there, just to kind of be internal and self-focused and just caring for your family. But you guys hadn't done that. You guys have continued to live openly and out front and creating organizations and support for people that have gone through that. And that's amazing. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. We believe in optimism and in hope. And as many tragic stories as there are, we've discovered there are so many beautiful stories. So the more we can tell our story, the more people can see this is possible.
Yes, exactly.
There's reality. Right. I think that creates hope and joy inside of our community. Definitely. At least I think that's true.
Definitely. Absolutely. 100%. And so...
So Lena, do you have any last words for our listener and audience?
I guess the one thing I would say is have your support around you. So if you are unsure that your spouse, will be supportive of your family, there are other people out there. Yes. I found a good trans support group even here in Des Moines, Iowa, when I was coming out, and having really good friends that you can talk to about this stuff and kind of those, circles of, safety as you go out too. Is super key as you come out, especially to a spouse, if you're unsure of how they're going to react. Find somebody you can talk to, if not a therapist, hopefully, also a friend, and reach out to us. This is for like, I don't even know where to start. Well, we go, tell me about yourself and let's talk about what you can do.
Exactly.
We are not therapists. So, that's the other thing is you need to have a therapist.
Right. Yes, we definitely underscore that as well. And the community, and we've talked about community and community building here a lot. Yes. And our community has issues, and there is things that we need to continue to work through. But one thing that has even, I would say, helped save my life, and Nia is part of that, is there are people that are there that you can talk to, and you can reach out to them. And maybe not everybody would respond, or maybe, they get bombarded with different responses. But, feel free to contact Shelby or I or Nia or Katie. That's why we're here, because you need a place to start. You need some place that's safe, that you can be able to verbalize and walk through your journey and unpack things. And so, but definitely that does not replace a therapist for sure. And we don't want to say that, but the community is there, and the community is out there for you. So, because you are doing so many different things, and all of that is underlined by trans awareness, trans advocacy, trans activism. And so I'm so thankful that you are out there in so many ways, because you're really pushing the envelope for so many of us. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Of course, it's nothing at all. It's they're all passion projects. I would do it regardless. So I'm really loving my life, and that I have the opportunity to do that. And
awesome.
So we would like to learn about your story. How do you shape yourself to today? Do you when did you realize you're not living in your true self, like your gender?
Well, a lot has happened in just the last few years. I've only been out since 2017, around August. Actually, August 10th, 2017 is when I started to tell everyone. And by October, everyone in the world knew, even my mom and stuff. But it began for me back in 2015, spring of 2015. I came to the realization that this was in my future, and I didn't know what it looked like at the time. It was just going to be something, whatever, transition looks different to each one of us, I think.
Right.
And I didn't get the opportunity to really start doing it until 2017, when I was like, had enough. Lots of us have this moment, transition or die kind of. And,
true.
Right?
Yes.
So I'd had enough of this, and I'm ready to move on.
Did you always feel the incongruency as like from child, or is it more late onset, or how?
Well, I think, I've had other trans women say that my gender dysphoria is even worse than theirs, but I thought I kind of got off easy back then, But I felt it K through 12 and my whole life. It really became an issue when I had to go to kindergarten, actually. And you're forced to relate to these other kids that you don't know and that sort of thing. So being social with them was wrong when you're presenting wrong and they see you as not the person you are. And that was minimal by kindergarten, really. I was uncomfortable. I was nervous.
Yes.
All my girlfriends in K through, in elementary at that point were all girls, not boys.
Yep.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So did you get any bully at school, K to 12?
Not really. No, I was okay. I mean, I was, the shy kid, and I was liked, but I wasn't ridiculed back then. I wasn't really, I wasn't dressing a certain way or anything like that. My mom saw to that, unfortunately.
Right.
She was making sure I, sort of presented like a boy to some degree, not harshly, but, quote unquote, for my own good, so I wouldn't get beaten up and stuff like that.
So,
but by fourth grade, by fourth grade, it became an issue. By fourth grade, because I was actually the first kid in my class to for my voice to get deep.
Okay.
And in fourth grade, it's terrible.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I can imagine.
And I can still remember. I can still see the scene. This boy, Angelo Delcor, who I'm still friends with on Facebook. And he just had to tell the whole class that my voice got deep before anyone else's. And, I think a boy would have loved to lord that over the boys, and I was mortified.
Right.
Of course.
Exactly.
So in your adulthood, like if we fast forward a little bit, in your adulthood, did you, like maybe high school or college, did you try to act more manly to cover your identity like that?
I did. Well, I did two extremes. In high school, I dressed maybe that would be something that would be considered non-binary intermittently through high school.
Okay.
I was like sort of Michael Jackson back in the day.
Okay.
I had like
letters.
I had lots of bling all over my outfits and stuff.
Nice.
Okay. But I never looked female. But by the time I was 20 or so, it really became an issue, and I had moved. I felt like I had to move out of my own hometown to be closer to myself, and I moved 300 miles away to live with my cousin in Virginia. I was living in Central Jersey at the time.
Okay.
And so I have this cousin in Richmond, Virginia, and she's a lesbian, and we moved in together.
Okay.
And it was perfect, Yeah, it was good. But I still was hiding who I was for the most part. Like I was telling her and their friends and stuff like that I'm female, but there were no words for me to describe myself as trans at the time.
Right.
I grew up with these terrible words that I don't even want to say.
Exactly.
Like human monster for Chinese.
Yeah. Well, some of the words, that start with a T, they don't bother me, but I know they really hurt a lot of my sisters. So, I avoid using them, for that reason. But ultimately, I think we need to take a lot of those words back and own them and say they don't hurt us.
Right. Exactly. Reclaim.
Yeah.
Was your family supportive as you came out, besides your cousin? How did that work for you?
My mom, actually, my dad was more than my mom, which is kind of, probably opposite of what most people experience.
Yeah.
But, again, my mom was just worried, I think, that I would get beaten up and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I remember watching some TV show and, crossing my leg like the girl on the show, while I'm watching it. I'm like 7 or 8 years old, and I was in the living room, she'd come running out of the kitchen and say, don't do that, and uncross my leg, and
oh my,
don't do that. And so it sends a bad message.
Yes.
So and I also read about your story. You also have a kid, right? You're a mother now, right?
Well, I was for a long time. 5 kids actually, 3 girls, 2 boys.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't do anything halfway.
Exactly.
So they weren't my biological children, but I met this single mother of 5 a long time ago, and overnight became the stay-at-home mother of 5 children. Where basically 2 months after we met, I was at home and I was picking them up at school and doing all the after-school stuff with them and everything.
Yeah, talk about 0 to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a typical lesbian thing, right? There's a joke with lesbians where like the second date involves a U-Haul, right?
Exactly.
And so she didn't know I was female, and I just came across as the stepdad for a long time.
Okay.
And when I finally did come out as, the mom,
Okay.
the stay-at-home mom, and they were like the go to work 9 to 5,
Right.
sort of accountant, office manager kind of person. So it didn't go too well. We often, trans women especially, get hurt by our family, whether it's blood or in-laws or otherwise.
Right.
So it eventually didn't work out really badly.
Sorry to hear that.
Okay, so listen to your background story. I don't hear anything like related to what you're doing right now. Like, for example, like modeling, actors. How did you get into that business? I'm very curious.
None of that at all was in my past lives. I've done a lot of things as far as my work world in the past, but coming out, it is nothing less than a clean slate and an opportunity to chase the dreams you had as a kid. And from when I was 9, I had a camera in my hand and was shooting all the time. And by the time I was 14, I had one step down from a pro camera in my hand. So always that. And by 14, I really wanted to be a runway model. So I'm like checking off those boxes. I chased the dream and I caught it. I got to do a bunch of fashion weeks already, and I'm signed up for half a dozen more between now and September.
Okay, so how's your experience working with it's called what, the trans clothing company? How did you get involved into that?
That was my first experience. And actually, all of this should have been starting to happen 2 years ago or more, actually. My first show was supposed to be Los Angeles in August of 2019, believe it or not. But I had committed to being on a movie set for an anti-suicide public service announcement, like a 30-minute movie. It was a psychological thriller. It's coming out this year. It's called Charlie's Demons.
Okay.
But so I couldn't do Fashion Week that at that moment, and then they gave me an opportunity for October, and that fell through. And then that February is when COVID happened.
Right.
So they were them, and at the time, lots of other designers, including some in Japan, invited me to Tokyo.
Wow.
And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. but COVID kept taking them. So I was supposed to do New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Tokyo at that point, and it all fell through.
Wow.
And so I kept up with it. I kept in touch with everyone. I kept, doing my workouts.
Yes,
you have to. Starving a little bit, eating lots of, I don't starve at all, but, and please don't do that if, for anything.
Don't try this.
It's not good. Yeah. I got an A in nutrition in college. It's totally not good for you. I promise. So
you look great. I remember I saw one of your photo. You were like in a wedding kind of sort of dress. Is that part of the modeling gig that you?
Yeah. That was Los Angeles Fashion Week just at the end of March. And so I got to go to LA, after New York. New York was February. And then March, we went to Los Angeles and did the runway there and did some photo shoots the day after in Beverly Hills, which was really fun. I got to wear 4 different outfits and a bunch of accessories from 3 different companies. And the wedding dress is from Aquatico Clothing Company. I love it.
You look very sexy in it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm getting, I don't know if you know, but I'm getting married by the end of, before October.
Wow.
Really?
So,
congratulations.
Thank you. I think that's why they put me in the wedding dress. They're like, we're going to put you in a wedding dress.
Manifest, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So how did you get involved with the trans clothing company?
That's, any aspiring model or actress or just influencer of any kind, really, I think you should spend a lot of time on Instagram. People are more serious about work-related things there compared to Facebook, for instance. Right. And I have gotten so much work.
Do you have an agent right now that give you those
sort of. I'm not signed anywhere. I don't have a contract, but Electra Models has helped me a lot in just really since Los Angeles, and they hooked me up with some designers that I'll be walking for at Miami Swim Week in July.
Okay.
And then New York again, and Los Angeles and San Francisco. So I'll be doing multiple designers at each of those fashion weeks.
So if our audience or listener are curious about your work and stuff, where can they find you? Like the best?
I think the best place to find me right now, I have a .com. It's just LivyWolf.com, but don't go there yet. Go there soon.
Not yet.
Because it's under construction. Okay. Again, I don't get to sleep,
well, we have a website designer.
Hey, I need help.
You guys can connect. Yeah, so she can help you.
Anyone, please? I'm begging.
So website not, then where should
I need like tabs for each of the things I do.
Yes,
and stuff
many
like
tabs. Many tabs.
Yeah.
So not website, but where shall we?
But yeah, my main presence where you can get to everything in one location is on Linktree, and I think most of us have probably heard of that. And I think we'll put up my Linktree link at the end of this video, and you click on it.
Okay.
And it's pretty simple. It's just Linktree, with my name, Livia Wolf.
Great.
And it has links to, for instance, articles that have come out, including me in Forbes magazine.
Yes.
That was a big one. I'm like, yay, Forbes. That's epic.
That's big time. Yeah.
She has New York Fashion.
She has a very long link tree, and so we encourage you to go look at it, from the interviews and her telling her story in various places, and the Forbes with other trans models, which is very amazing and exciting to see.
Yeah, and please add this interview to your link tree too. Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely will, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. And with TCC Trans Clothing Company, it's an important company regardless, because everyone involved is either trans or non-binary, gender not conforming.
I love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes.
So and we made it all the way to New York Fashion Week at Sony Hall, which to me was just a dream come true, really. Amazing. Of course.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I love that it's. Of course, the name is Trans Clothing Company. It's not anything created. It's there. It's bold. It's in front of you, and here we are, and we're not going anywhere.
Exactly. It's in your face to let everyone know.
Exactly.
Trans specific. The things are designed to fit us, of course, which I know we have lots of trouble with.
Yes.
Right.
Or, upper body for the most part, anyway, fitting certain things.
Right.
But I really love it. The designer, her name, actually their name, they're non-binary, is Melissa K. Atkinson.
Okay.
Do they have online stores or where people can find it? Do you know?
Yeah, you can just look up Trans Clothing Company. I think it's .net or .shop. I apologize.
No,
we'll put it in the notes. Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
All right.
Yeah, maybe it's .co.
Yeah.
Listen to you that you are very enjoying in front of camera, and I also read that you also a photographer. So do you enjoy more behind the scenes or being a center of the modeling and acting?
Pre-transition, I was absolutely the wallflower. I really quietly, leave me out of it behind the camera. Yeah, which is why photography was good for me because I was always behind the camera. Gotcha. But now, simply because I've chosen this life, for instance, I came out in 2017. I started hormones in 2018, and in spring of 2019, I became this public figure to speak out for for things that we need. Right. And so I started doing a lot of public events and red carpets, and then got into the movie industry sort of by luck. I had a director approach me to be in that anti-suicide PSA called Charlie's Themes I mentioned. And I'm like, oh, well, I kind of got the bug for this now.
Nice.
So I'm going to pursue this. It'll help me give me a platform from which to, to speak.
Yes.
And simultaneously, I was planning this trip to Washington, D.C. to go, go and experience the first ever trans visibility march on Washington, D.C. Yeah, I'm like, how could I not?
And that was right before COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the September before COVID, 2019. And so I did that, and I broadcast that, lots of footage. to all my fans on Facebook Live, and I have the full 5,000 you were allowed at that time on that particular profile. And before I got there, I was like, well, I need to do something else while I'm there.
Why we're here?
So, yeah, and it's Washington D.C. Let's go see some politicians. So I made appointments. I lobbied. I actually got to go to the offices and with appointments and sit at the tables and talk to the staff of then Senator Kamala Harris. Which was really awesome. You don't get the senator unless it's just random that they happen to be there, and then you get them, and maybe that's a security protocol.
Yeah,
where you don't actually get the senator.
See staff, right?
Yeah, you're lucky to get in a building, basically. But so I got to talk with them and give them a lot of information about multiple causes, actually. And I did the same with Dianne Feinstein and my own House representative here in California, Ami Bera. And so, yeah, I encourage everyone that even if you can't travel, you can still, talk with your representatives either by email or get on the phone, look up their phone, whatever state you are.
Right.
It's very important. It's really the only thing that changes the future is small amounts, relatively small amounts of committed individuals.
Yes.
That's part of a quote from Margaret Mead back in the day.
Right.
Love her. Yeah.
Exactly. The only thing that has made a difference. Right.
Yeah, it is. Right.
And if we don't speak up, who will?
Right.
And so that's why it's so important.
Yeah. Since I came out, I just have this in me that I can't let one of my sisters have to live the life that I had to live.
Exactly.
My siblings that are younger than myself, I'm ready to stand up and be counted for all of us.
Exactly.
It's time. It's well past time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like from probably most people that do transition, their old lives aren't very aware of what this community or other communities that are different look like. And so if we don't speak out, if we're not visible or creating awareness, how will other people know? And so we talked about that a lot here and with each other, that it needs to be out. And we understand that some people can't, it's not safe. And it's maybe a time not to be so visible. It's a time to protect yourself and do what you need to do. But when you can, your voice is needed.
So we living in California. I think it's a lot easier. Possible, a lot of opportunity to speak up and be visible.
Yes. We're not Florida or Texas or
It's California is as safe as it gets, really, for trans people, trans women specifically. But even here, I have experienced discrimination and neo-Nazis contacting me to tell me they have my picture on your dartboard.
My gosh.
And the Sacramento area and Northern California has their own neo-Nazi groups, Proud Boys, all that sort of thing that roll in. And even locally, it made it to the news that teenagers in high school were posting pictures with like swastikas painted on their body and stuff. And that's not okay.
Hard to imagine.
So I'm fighting that. Exactly.
And so you mentioned that you also participate in the Sacramento Department of Health campaign, right?
Sacramento County. They have it's the Sacramento County Department of Health has their mental health department, which has a campaign. It's Stop Stigma Sacramento, and that's a hashtag. And there's other ones to go along with it. You can find them on Instagram and all social media. And since it is May is Mental Health Awareness Month, it's awesome. So at the end of last month, we filmed a 30-second TV commercial for the county to. My part in it was transgender specific to get, trans people in for care, to not be, ashamed of it, that they need help with anxiety because of the way society treats us. I mean, look, I know Nazis are after me, right?
Right.
That can cause some anxiety.
A little bit, right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it is time we talk about that and within our community and results can be devastating. And so I know for me, I've been on medication for many years and have struggled with anxiety and depression probably since very young, but of course not diagnosed. But
me too.
The difference that it has made in my life, and then ultimately, after HRT, I was able to go off some antidepressants because the effect that HRT had on me was so amazing.
Yeah,
and,
I did the same thing.
Yeah, and so it is something that we always need to put in front, that we still do struggle. I still go through depression now. I live an amazing life compared to the inauthenticity I had before, but yet it's still difficult. Life. We still live in this country where many people don't like us, and there are people passing laws that will restrict us and
every bit of that hurts our mental health as well as our physical health. They want to stop us from getting care. It's crazy.
Right. Exactly.
And before I came out, I had a solid 15 years of depression and anxiety. And even before I started on hormones, just knowing back in 2015, 2016, really it started for me to hit home, and definitely 2017, that where I'm free. And that weight that came off my shoulders was enough to have me in 3 weeks wean off of years of antidepressants.
Amazing. Is it amazing?
Yeah, I never went back.
I had read that.
I was on. Go ahead.
I had read that would be true, and so I was hoping that that's how my body would react as well. Yeah. And within 3 days,
to be my true self.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's really all it took.
So there's
and I'm not on any of that anymore. Ever since 2016, I weaned off of everything safely. Had a couple seizures along the way during withdrawal, because it can cause that.
Oh wow! Right.
So it was a harsh. With not with the antidepressants, but with anti-anxiety meds specifically. They are for people that have seizures often. And so if you're not taking it for seizures and you stop it, even if you withdraw it slowly, you're likely to have seizures for a while. And they can be so bad that you can really get harmed or killed by them.
Yes. Is there a hotlines for people to reach out if they need help?
Well, specifically, the one that's really the worst out of all of them, benzodiazepines are the worst category of that sort of drug, but Klonopin is the worst of that category. And that's what I was on for a long time. So, the withdrawal of most drugs, even really hardened sort of street drugs, is only like 2.5 to 3 weeks or months. And this was 3 years withdrawing from Klonopin, actually 2.5 years to get Klonopin out of my system in incredibly tiny increments. And then another 6 months on Valium, because it's similar, but the molecule's different enough to stagger it a little bit more. But in all, it was about over 5 years of, in addition to that, I had to be on something called gabapentin, which is really just a, an amino acid that your body, everyone's body produces. Yeah. But Klonopin teaches your body to forget how to make it. And so I had to supplement that for about 5.5 years to make sure I wouldn't have seizures. So I'm all good now, though. I'm off of everything.
And that's a great story, because it
wide
can be
awake
difficult.
and loving my life.
Right.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. We go through, hell. I like to say that heaven and hell exists right here on earth. Right.
And if any of our listeners find yourself in those type of situations, you're not alone. And we want you to reach out to us. That's one of the reasons that we want to be so visible and so accessible, because we know, and as Libya is saying, these times can be very difficult, and even exaggerated even more so because of our gender incongruence. And as we go there, you're not alone. And I know it feels like you're alone, and there may not be anyone in your city or county or even state that is gender nonconforming, but you're not alone. And reach out to any of us and any other person that's out and aware there. We're always willing to talk to people.
Yeah, and also we're going to put it, I believe you on your Instagram, there's a hotline for people to call if they're, right?
Yeah, well, I think a great one for trans people is the Trans Lifeline. Yes, it's a phone number that you can call anytime. It's staffed by trans people for trans people. So, you're going to get some proper care. And in fact, I've had people write to me to say how useful it has been for them, where And, I have nothing but the greatest respect for the people, on those phones because, you can get PTSD just from listening to the stories of others repeatedly.
Right.
And I had someone recently tell me they're in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and they had someone on the phone from that group, and they were just crying on the phone with them, because they really feel part of it, because we are, we've walked the walk. Right. So I think you're going to get some good care. If you have to call them, please do.
Reach out.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to shift our show a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to talk about your celebrity shift, because I'm myself. I'm a foodie person. Many people know.
Good.
So I'm very, very surprised that you're also doing something like that.
Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I do love my pretty food.
And it is very pretty.
It's very yummy too.
Well, it kind of works out because I have a background as being a photographer for a long, long time. And when I was a kid, I was a teenager, and my older brother was a chef at some high-end places back east. So I got to learn from him. And so I sort of kept up that discipline over the years, and got kind of good. A lot of people want me to cook for them already.
Wow.
Nice.
And during lockdown, I was posting enough of the pretty food where people were like, you have to have a show, so I'm like, okay.
Great.
Do you have a show?
At the time, I don't, but I already, have my Chef Livia Wolf Instagram up, and I am either hunting for a show or I'm going to create my own shortly.
Right.
It's just a matter of, I sleep maybe 5 hours on average already.
Yes.
Finding the time in the day.
Yeah. Someone wants to help. Hey, let me know, please.
So there you go, Solomon. That can be our first franchise.
Right. But I have a couple great ideas for the approach for cooking shows that I think would go over really well.
Excellent.
So we're going to pursue that. As far as healthy alternatives.
Oh yeah, so needed.
Pre-transition, I was terribly overweight, like really terribly. I was in danger, whereas because my cholesterol was high and my liver enzymes were high and everything. And now everything is really quite perfect, frankly. And you really can do that with just making your own good food and knowing what's in the food you make. So
reading labels and understanding.
Right. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, maybe you can also come up with a book too.
Yeah, absolutely. Regarding food, I think, if you're not spending the money that you need to on quality food and the way you cook it, you're going to spend it on medications.
Oh, that's right.
Very good point.
Or surgeries or co-pays. You don't want that. So just eat well.
Wow.
And geez, look at me. Seriously, I got this fit. I lost 69 pounds.
Wow. Nice.
Before my transition started, as I was motivated, I lost 69 pounds, basically just by eating properly. And, I didn't belong to a gym. I just went hiking and dancing a lot, and that's about it.
Wow.
So everyone can do it. You just have to want it.
That's great. Yeah. Can we carbon copy you? Is that a thing yet? Because you do so many things and so many things well. We need you not to sleep. Take those extra 5 hours and put out more content.
I'm trying my best. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing what you're involved in.
So with my cooking, I am starting to do locally in Sacramento area, doing cooking in person for people. Small parties, that sort of thing, not something massive. I just kind of want to keep it personal, where someone just wants to hire a chef, and usually it's people really like doctors who see the need and don't have the time and or don't care about cooking. So I could make them a week's worth of meals in advance. They throw it in their freezer, they're done, or I cook for them at a dinner party for friends.
Wow,
amazing!
I love. It's just another performance art. I equate it to sidewalk chalk art. The artist drawing on a sidewalk, and then people walk on it, and it's gone in a day or two. Food's the same way. It's beautiful, takes some effort, take some pictures, and then you eat it and it's gone.
Yeah.
But then it's also nourishing and builds in who you are. Yeah. So I love that.
Well, like any other art is nourishing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I always say food bring people together.
Yep.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
It does.
Manja.
Okay, Solomon, we're going to need a kitchen. And we're going to fly Olivia down, and we're going to have a cooking show on our podcast.
He already has a camera up there.
Yes.
So he can have a cooking stove here.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to see what else do you want to share with the audience? Any last thoughts? Any last
Well,
what if somebody want to come out and they want to pursue their career? Do you have any advice for them?
Well,
from your experience,
this hasn't changed for me since I was a child. I was feeling various degrees of needing to be the real me forever. And again, back then I didn't have the words that describe me. And now lots of young people do, and they're finally coming forward. I say to them, to all of you out there, this isn't going away.
Right.
What you feel, it won't go away. You have to address this.
Yes.
And
it's going to get worse.
Yeah, we often have to give up lots of things in life to be who we really are. And in the end, at least for me, it's still worth it.
Yes.
It's totally still worth it.
Right.
And in my work life, I'm in contact with lots of people that write to me that, they haven't had issues at work. They haven't been discriminated. They haven't been fired or anything like that, et cetera. And that's a beautiful thing. And it depends where you are and what your situation is and what sort of work you do.
Right.
But and I have been discriminated against in the entertainment industry, specifically in some modeling, where some groups were like, "Oh, we love you," and then I'm such the activist that I tell them that I'm trans after we start talking, and then they would literally block me or some variation on that. Yeah, so
it's real.
Yeah, you be prepared for that, but just walk up to the doors that are open for you, and the others will be dragged into the correct side of history, when we choose it.
Yeah, you're very fearless, and very have the courage and confidence.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing, because
confidence is everything.
Yes,
really.
If you have confidence, then they will not really, attack
exactly.
you.
Yeah, and don't have misplaced confidence, but do your homework. Like either, no matter what you do, your job or something you're striving for that you've never done, or going to Washington, D.C. to talk to politicians, just like do your homework first.
Exactly.
And then you'll be comfortable enough to just own the room when you're there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Olivia, you're such a great example for us to live in our authenticity, but then use your voice to celebrate that and keep pushing the boundaries. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for being so visible. It's the easiest thing not to and just to hide, but thank you for your voice.
Yeah.